Today I'm just going to try and show you a little bit of what it looks like to shape and form the loaves of the gluten-free bread recipe that I shared on my blog. So the way it works best is if you work with the dough cold. So this is straight out of the fridge. I made it. It's actually been chilling in the fridge. This is the 5th day, which is how I prefer the flavor. It's like a shortcut sourdough basically. It's got a lot of the same flavors as a traditional sourdough when you would use a sourdough starter, but this does not use a starter. So how I'm gonna do it, what you need, you have to have parchment paper. It's such a wet, sticky dough that you really need to work with that. And you need water as well. So I always use a water bottle, and I've also got a little bowl of water here for getting my hands wet as I need to for shaping the dough. Now the thing is to get used to is it's so different than shaping a traditional dough made with regular, all-purpose flour. So what you're gonna do, just tip it out onto your parchment, and the dough is so wet, but you want it to be wet and you want to keep it, that's how you can get it nice and smooth. So I'm going to get my hands wet, and you're just going to basically almost treat it like if you were doing a sand castle project or working with like a clay. You want to do as little pressure and kind of popping of the bubbles that are in there as possible. So I just try and get it sort of, I'm just going to do kind of like a oblong, nothing too fancy, but I have really wet fingers. I'm just going to smooth the dough. See how sticky it is? That's okay. Because it is such a wet dough, it does take a long time to bake. So just keeping that in mind, remembering that you've got a ton of moisture that needs to cook off while you're baking. So it's a pretty long bake, and because it's so high moisture while it bakes, you also need to let it cool way longer than you would necessarily probably let a regular, loaf of bread cool. No cutting it warm by any means. So how it works, since this is straight out of the fridge, it's got to do another kind of a rise resting period. So I'm just getting it nice and smooth. This is just how I do it after having kind of figured it out after lots of practice. Feel free and do it however you like, but if you need to, you can squirt a little more water on it if you need, things like that. But it does not have to be perfect, but really this is just all you do. Keep it nice and wet and just sort of smooth it how you like into the shape you like. You can make it round, you could, any loaf shape is fine. But keep in mind, you really want to allow as much of those gas bubbles that have been trapped in there. You don't want to pop them, so that you don't want to punch it down, stretch it, knead it, roll it, anything like that is pretty much of a no-no. So now what we'll do, I'm going to cover it with a big bowl, let it sit at room temperature for 90 minutes, and then just it'll puff up a little bit. It's not going to be huge, but a bit. And then coat it really well with a dusting of the gluten-free flour mix again. And then I'll just score it with, I found that just like a serrated bread knife works best. So, yeah, then it goes right into the oven.